What if your health symptoms aren't problems to actually be solved or eliminated, but they are messages to decode? So many people are moving through life and they know that there's something wrong or something off in their body. And they try to take supplements or to do various things in order to get themselves back on track, as they would say. They do the labs, they do the change of diet, they see their doctor, they push through, and yet there is still fatigue, brain fog, inflammation, and mysterious symptoms. A quiet sense of something deeper that hasn't been addressed. So today's guest believes that your body is not malfunctioning, but it is communicating. And if you know how to translate the signal, you stop guessing and you start actually healing. So, welcome, Beth. Beth Mielbrecht is our guest for today, and she has a very interesting story and a very interesting background, and I'll let her tell you a bit about it. But some of her history, or what I would call skill stack, is that she has 35 years of being a mechanical engineer. So we're going to go with that. Let that land for you. And today she is also a certified Reiki master and teacher, a homeopath, and a bioenergetic testing practitioner. So welcome, Beth.
Hello, I am so happy to be here. This is going to be a great conversation. Thank you so
Indeed.
much.
You are very welcome. I'm so happy to have you. Before our paths crossed, I didn't even know about bioenergetic muscle, like testing and all these kinds of things. The only muscle testing I knew about was through my yoga therapy training, which we do a bit of muscle testing in order to figure out where people's weakness is in their bodies and help to develop a yoga sequence for them to help strengthen those, almost like PT, but on the yoga side. Right. And so I'm so interested in hearing about what this entails, what this really looks like in a session. So my first question for you is, how does engineering, or how did engineering shape the way you approached health originally?
Well, you should know about engineers that we are problem solvers. And
Yes.
I'm a mechanical engineer. So mechanical engineers are very hands-on. We are the engineers who build your cars, who make sure that your house has heating and air conditioning,
Oh,
very hands-on, practical things. Many, many
yes.
other wonderful things. But it's about building something that works, very tangible. So I'm very grounded, and it's the grounding in practicality, in physics, in how electricity works. It's about building a solution. And so that mindset of seeing a problem, figuring out a solution, and building it is what I have done. And when I discovered that other people did not relate to their bodies like I did, and they had problems with their health, and they thought they couldn't do anything with it, all of my senses went off saying, well, you have a problem. Well, of course we can fix that. And
Right.
yes, yes. And I always had a great body awareness. I thought everybody was like that. If I ate something that didn't feel right, I knew right away, so I stopped eating that. Or
Right.
if I didn't feel well, I would make sure I went to bed early. I listened and I could feel things right away. And it took me decades to realize that not everyone is built that way, or people learn to ignore those things. So when people said, oh, I don't feel well and I don't know why, there's nothing I can do, I thought,
Mm-hmm.
oh my goodness, of course there's something we can do.
Yes. Yes, indeed. I would agree with you. There was a point in my, especially in my 30s, where my body was giving me signals, and I learned to tune in that way and shift things as I learn to need to. And yes, diet is one of those things. I would agree with you. It's like if I eat something and it doesn't agree with me, it is not likely that I am going back to that. I don't care how good it tasted. Not very likely. Yeah. Okay. And so, what does it mean for you? Because you call yourself the health detective, which I love very much. So, what does it mean to you to be a health detective?
The health detective phrase is something that one of my clients told me I was, and I loved it. And so mechanical engineers are not well known for their marketing skills. And I quickly adopted that. I said, oh, I am taking that. I am now the health detective. But to be
There
a
you
health
go.
detective means that I ask questions and I keep
Yeah.
figuring things out. And I know that investigation and asking, inquiry, and really being methodical and logical about it in my approach. There's an objectivity as well. One of the things that differentiates my approach from many others is that I, even though I have a wealth of natural health wisdom, I don't
Hmm.
assume that I know that what works for somebody else is going to work for you. And so
Hmm.
I'm not out to just use pattern recognition and apply protocols because, well, this is what typically people do. And so when I'm a detective, when I'm investigating, I am carefully asking questions, not only of you and listening to your story, because I think that's very healing to tell your story, but also I'm
Hmm.
asking your body directly. So it's not you answering. It's not your brain and your mouth. I'm checking in with your organs. Are they operating well? And there's a way that I can check, and it's an electronic communication, and I can get responses on like, well, yeah, something's stuck here. And there's all forms of energy medicine that do this in different ways. And so I
Hmm.
have one way that does it. And that makes it very subjective. And then I layer in my health wisdom, but it's
Okay.
very focused on you and investigating what's going on specifically with you.
I love that because there's so many times that I say to my clients, and I've said on this podcast, to ask yourself a question and not respond with your mind, but allow your body to give you the answer, because our bodies always know.
Yes.
They always know. So I love that you're able to bring that into your work.
Yes,
That's beautiful.
absolutely.
Okay. Nice, nice. What are, I guess, in medicine in general and in healthcare, as we call it here in the States, um, the mainstream models often miss hidden imbalances. Why do you think that is?
It's two reasons. One is the traditional approaches are looking for emergencies. They're
Mm,
looking for something that has gotten so far out of balance that now there needs to be treatment, now there needs to be surgery, now there needs to be
mm,
something that happens.
yeah.
And it is not built on preventative care. It's not built for the early stages. And they're just that's how the practitioners are trained, and
Yeah.
they're doing their best with the time, with the funding model, the business models that have come up around this. It's difficult. One of
Yeah.
my dear close friends is a medical doctor, and I totally empathize with everything that she has to do and the constraints that she has on her to be
Hmm.
able to. And there's also, you know, rules and regulations, standards of care. Like there's you kind of have to stay in your lane a little bit.
Oh,
Yeah. So the
okay.
second thing is that what I see is that most of the tests and the symptoms that are looked at, they're all lagging indicators. They're all
Mm.
downstream. So if you look at a blood test, which is great, blood tests are fine, but
Yeah.
when you get a blood test, changes have already happened energetically. And
Mm.
then after energetically, and if there's still something blocked, then those changes start settling into your urine and your blood. And then they start causing pain. And then they start settling into your physical body. And now you have a hip that hurts or something physical. But it
Mm-hmm.
started earlier. And so by the time you look at the blood tests, some
Yes.
of those are helpful nowadays, but they are lagging indicators. And there are other examples like that where you're going to see what's happening, but all of those things have already been in motion for months or for years. And you probably felt the change. Because if I
Mm-hmm.
asked you, well, when did it start? You can say, well, it started when there was a death in my family, or it started when I
Mm.
lost my job, or it started when I had to do this thing and I just never really recovered from that. And then that weakness kind of compounded. And so you know really what the beginning was. So imagine if you asked your body, well, what do I need to help come back from this weakness or this time of illness so that you fully heal instead of not really, and it just compounds and compounds. And then
Mm.
that's why they miss it in the beginning because it's too subtle. It can't be picked up on
Yeah,
the standard tests.
that makes sense. And I also would imagine too, the way our system works, it's so compartmentalized that they don't subscribe to the model of a holistic approach to ask the questions like what you were just talking about. There's something happened in my family, or this is happening in my work life, or whatever it is that could have 6 months ago, 8 months ago started the ball rolling. Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. My clients come to me and they have regular practitioners. So they have
Mhm.
their primary doctor. Then they have
Right.
a specialist for maybe ear, nose, and throat. And then
Yes.
they might have a
Yep.
mental health counselor or a
Yep.
therapist, and they're talking about their feelings with someone. And they go to yoga class, and they also they get a massage. And they say, "Well,
Yeah.
isn't that enough?
Right.
Like,
And
aren't
they
I
probably
covering it
take all
all?"
the supplements.
Yeah, yeah. Like why isn't this all working? Well,
Yeah.
and it's they mean well, and every one of those people is trying to do the best they can, but they're just
Absolutely.
not connecting at all.
That's right. That's right. And so, how does digital muscle testing and the bioengineer and engineer my tongue is doing the thing today. The testing that you do come in and make a difference for people?
Great. Yes. So it is a complicated word. I did not make it up. It's called, I know. And especially being an engineer, so we got that ENG and it's energy. Like it is a complicated, it's complicated for
No.
everyone. So in the US, it's called bioenergetics or
Okay.
bioenergetic testing. In
Yeah.
Europe, it's commonly called bioresonance. And
Oh.
those words have been around for a while. If you've come across them, they're not unique to any individual person. But
Yeah.
my approach has been using homeopathy and hands on healing, Reiki,
Yeah.
to take care of myself and my family. And when I always got questions about, well, Beth, what do you do for your health? Or can you help me? And I always used to try and help people. And I thought, well, why can't you figure it out? This is pretty easy. And I didn't realize it wasn't easy because people weren't in tune. And
That's
then
right.
when I discovered through my own investigations, I came across this thing called it's digital muscle testing, it's bioenergetic testing. I said, "Oh, how interesting. I want to learn more about that." And I had a session with a wonderful naturopath in North Carolina. And she did this bioenergetic testing on me. And she said, great, okay, here's what we found. I'm going to give you a homeopathic remedy. And by the way, like, I can see that, we're going to look at this area for your hormones and we're going to do this, but I see here that your right knee, did you hurt your right knee? I said, no, I haven't hurt my right knee. Well, are you sure? Because it's showing up here like you needed some knee repair support, like, and I said, oh my goodness, I wore out my right knee running high school track decades ago. And that right knee just needs, like, it will make noises and clicking, and it doesn't give me any pain, but it is a little wobbly. It's just extra flexible. Like, I never had surgery on it. It was long ago. And she said,
Right.
oh, well, good. Well, it's going to be better now. And I got the remedy from her and I took it, and my knee is stronger. Like, it doesn't make those clicking noises. And then as women, our hormones are always changing. If anyone tells you you're going to balance your hormones and they'll be balanced forever,
Forever,
that's
right? No, that is not a thing.
no, they that's their job. Is they're always in and out. And and at that time, like, oh yes, it definitely helped with my hormones. And there were other effects. But the thing is during the call, I kept asking questions. Now, I am talking to this beautiful woman. She is a naturopath
Yeah.
and a master herbalist.
Oh.
And she's looking at me like, why are you asking me questions? I don't know. Here. And she shared her screen. So we're on Zoom. She shared her screen. She showed me the software.
Yeah.
And my eyes got so big. I said, oh my goodness. All of this detail. She had no idea how it was so perfect to me.
Yeah, right.
And she says, I don't do much of this stuff because, well, she's a master herbalist. That's not doing stuff with the computer software and this thing. She goes, it's not her natural language.
No.
But it's mine.
It very much is yours.
It's mine.
Yes.
And I said, thank you. I need to learn more. And then a few months later, I talked to the manufacturer, I purchased a system, I learned how to do it. And it just works so well with me and my brain. And so what I do with this thing called bioenergetic testing is that it is a digital form of muscle testing. And muscle testing is something that's usually done in person. It's also called applied kinesiology.
Yes.
So if we were together, and you've done this, so but if we were together, I would ask you to hold out your arm, and I would put my fingers on your wrist, and I would say, your name is Shervon, and your arm would be strong because that is your name, and your body knows that. But if I put my fingers on you and I said, your name is Louise, your arm would be like, no, it's not. That's silly. And and there would be a slight weakness. And when you're in person, it's required for me to think of the right question, verbalize it, you listen to it, you interpret it, and then I have to use my fingers on your arm to detect that muscle weakness, to detect that energetic signal of like, oh, no, that's weak. And so when practitioners do it, they might say, okay, I'm going to check your heart and your liver and your spleen. And it's limited by how many questions you can physically ask. The skill of the practitioner to actually make sure they're getting a correct reading. And often practitioners in that case, the only methodology they have to help you is to give you a supplement. So they say, oh, your liver is weak. Here, I have a supplement for that. Hold this supplement. Let me see if you test strong. I found that method, that approach was good for some people, but it could be so much better. And I thought that there's a conflict of interest. I don't sell supplements. And I thought that I would, with software now, I can ask your body without me and my biases getting in the way. Because if we
Okay.
had talked, I might know something about you because you just told me I'm stressed about this thing, or I have this
Mm-hmm.
weakness in my back, or whatever it is. So I might be thinking, oh, I wonder if that's going to be the issue. And so I could have a bias in asking the question.
Mm.
And as an engineer, I really want it to be objective. And then
Right.
once we come up with something and like, oh, yes, your sciatic nerve or your pelvic floor, like, yes, then let's bring in all of the knowledge. But until then, let me get your body to be truthful and
Mm-hmm.
without me misinterpreting everything. So the way it happens with digitally is we are electromagnetic. We
Yes.
have our whole body is an electric communication system.
Yep.
We've been told that everything happens with neurotransmitters and biochemicals, and yes, those are there, but we don't wait for a signal to travel and then fire and then a chemical reaction to occur and then the next thing happens. Yes, that's happening, but there's electricity that's sending those signals much faster. If you've
Mm.
ever been going down the steps and you hit your foot and you kind of miss a step and you get that shudder in your body, like, quick, you're about to fall. Even
Mm-hmm.
before your body, you get that feeling. Your electrical communication system is on it.
Yeah.
So, what I do is I send like a text message to your body, an electric signal, and then I ask, what do you need? Is this in balance? And then I get back a yes or no. Or I ask, do you need minerals? Which one? Is it boron, magnesium, copper? And I keep track of that all in the computer software. And so it is asking your electric system, not your brain, because we don't know how these things feel.
Right. Perfect. I like it. I like it. Okay. All right. I'm not. I try to resist tech as much as possible, but this it sounds like it would be up my alley. So you're allowing then a person's electromagnetic field to speak for them, to really alert you really on what it needs based on the symptoms they have been noticing coming up for them.
Yes. And
Yeah.
also what their body is ready to heal.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Because,
yeah. Because it has to be ready to be in that space to, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. One of my teachers, I'm also a certified psychedelic therapist, and that teacher is Daniel McQueen, and he would often say when he was training, a symptom is just something that's halfway out. It's a symptom that's showing itself because there's something that needs to be healed. Otherwise, you wouldn't see it, feel it, know it, it would not be there. But it's ready. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's lovely. Symptoms are intelligent communication. I like that. So, why would intelligent people and intuitive people often feel dismissed by traditional models of care, do you think?
Well, I think it's because they know something, they're sensing something,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, if you're, I either see people that are fully in the system or
Mm.
halfway in the system or fully out
Yeah.
of the system. So if you're fully in the
Okay.
medical system or you're halfway in, if something
Yeah.
doesn't feel right, you go to your doctor and you try and get validation. But if you say, every time I drink milk, I or cheese, like I know something doesn't feel right, so they say, okay, get an allergy test, and that comes back inconclusive. now you feel dismissed because you're like, no, there's something not
There's
right.
something wrong.
There's
Yeah.
something not right. Or you say,
Yeah.
I get this anxiety in this situation, and you're you're like, well, yeah, lots of people get stressed in social situations, or, oh, it's really no big deal. Why don't you try meditation? Or why don't, it's very easy unless you have a good team, and there's plenty like you, really good people who have tools to help. But we know that anxiety, depression also has a physical component as well.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the answer is to start with the emotions and the mental. Sometimes the answer is supported by looking at the digestive and
Mm-hmm.
then all of the other things. And so for each person, it might be slightly different. So, if you have anxiety and you're taking medication to lower your stomach acid, and then you think that they're not related,
Right.
problem.
Right.
And then you get
Yep.
dismissed when things aren't getting resolved.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And those hidden imbalances that don't get resolved begin to like drain our focus, our energy, our emotional resilience. I remember when I was in my 30s dealing with some of these mystery symptoms, the resilience started to wane. I was just like, I don't know how much more of this I can take, right? And it can mess with your decision making capability because you're so uncertain at that point of what's going on. You're wondering, am I even able to make proper decisions for the other parts of my life? Right. So,
I have seen this in my engineering career. I've led companies, I've led worldwide teams. I have seen when my number one business key performance indicator for financial success is the
yeah.
health of the team. Because when
Mm,
your team doesn't feel well, or
yep.
someone in their family doesn't feel well,
Yeah.
they can't think clearly. They're not, just like you said, not making good decisions. They are always uncomfortable. They're
Yeah.
slightly in pain, or a little pain, a lot of pain. And so they're not
Hmm.
creative. They're not solving problems. And I'm an engineer. I'm working with lots of engineers. They need to be
Yeah.
solving problems. Well, in
Absolutely.
every field, you're solving problems. And if half of your brain is going to pain management, or I don't know how your stomach feels, or
Yeah.
you're worried about a family member and how that family member is doing, like it can extend to a
Hmm.
close, like a child or a partner.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the productivity goes out the window, and it can, for some people, it's uncomfortable to even be in front of a computer
Yeah.
between their back or their eyes.
Yeah.
They can't focus.
Absolutely. And so then those health issues we know then doesn't just affect the body. It affects our mental well-being, our mental health for
Mhm.
sure. And I would also dare to say our connection to spirit. Because
Mhm.
sometimes when we're stuck in the body dealing with pain, we don't feel like we have the capacity even to connect with our spiritual selves. And so all three of the sides of the triangle get affected if one piece is not being addressed.
That's so true, and not often spoken about. And what I've seen with some of my clients is that they tell me how at the end of our journey together, like after
Mhm.
we've worked together for a while, and they tell me I didn't realize how far out of alignment I was.
Ah,
So they say now I am in alignment, and
okay.
then they tell me how they're back to their practices, whether it's a spiritual or religious or meditative or whatever it is. One woman is she rides horses, and that is her when she's with the horse, you have to be in alignment to be on a horse. If the
Yeah,
horse will not be with you.
that's right. So true. So true. What kinds of health issues have you seen the digital testing uncover for people?
Well, it's wide and varied.
Hmm.
Usually there are a couple of categories. One
Okay.
is nutritional deficiencies.
Okay.
So some people
Yeah.
know they have to improve their diet, and this brings those things loud and clear. Other
Yeah.
people are eating relatively healthy, but because their metabolism is weak and there's other things going on, they're not actually getting all of the value of those nutrients because it's not being digested and processed well. So
Okay.
that is something that comes up. So nutritional deficiencies. The second is environmental toxins. Everything from pesticides and
Mm-hmm.
organophosphates and glyphosate. So just things that are in the environment, heavy metals, different dyes,
Mm.
sometimes some different sterilants. So things that are used as sterilizers, they build up. Medications can build up, and your body can say, I'm ready to get rid of this now. If your body can't process the pharmaceutical, it will store it in the liver, it will store it in fatty tissue,
Mm-hmm.
until it knows how to do it. Sometimes there's all kinds of chemical and environmental things like that. Sometimes it's pollen. It's just, natural things that that's what we're designed to deal with. And sometimes
Yeah.
it's just, you need more help with that. And then the third is emotional support. So
Okay.
because
Yeah.
it is a homeopathic based system, bioenergetics is a homeopathic based system, and homeopathy is beautiful with emotional support.
Yeah.
Uh, it I get balancing remedies for what you need for your current stress right now, with who you are constitutionally. You are someone who
Mm-hmm.
worries too much about others. You're someone who always has to have the last word. You are someone who is could be afraid to look for the good because there's just so many subtle things that come up that can be helped with homeopathic, like the energetic signatures of homeopathy. Then the second part of emotional is the trapped emotion release, the things that are from long ago that
Mm-hmm.
you didn't have time to process because life goes so fast,
Yes.
or you were too young and
Yes.
you really couldn't. It's not time. It was not time for you to make sense and process it at that time. And when
Yeah.
those things come up, I switch into Reiki mode,
Mm-hmm.
and it is pretty powerful to ask for your team's assistance in helping to release whatever wants to be released of those named old emotions. And sometimes they're
Mm-hmm.
inherited, sometimes they're absorbed. And it's quite powerful to feel the lineage of people standing by, cheering me and my client on, like, yes, it's time to let this go.
Oh, I love that you mentioned that. Yes. I often tell people, I often tell my clients if I'm doing one-on-one healing work with them, is that that we all come into this world with a lineage that is oftentimes guiding us. And it is really up to us to tune in or reach out and ask for help, but they don't interfere, so to speak, but they are our biggest cheerleaders.
Yes,
So, so very much so. So, this sounds like a lovely combination between science and energy work.
it
Would that
is.
be a way that you describe it?
It's energy. It's all of the energy. It's one of the foundational courses that an engineer takes that I
Yeah.
took is electricity and magnetism. And
Ah,
that's, you know,
yeah.
that's the electricity that's powering our computers right now. And
Yeah.
now I've studied the subtle energies. It's all the same. It is
Yeah.
really all the
Nice.
same. We put sensors on the heart to read the electromagnetic pulses of the heart, or sensors on the head to measure brain waves. Same thing as
Yeah.
putting a meter at your electrical panel to measure that. It really is, it's just one is a lot bigger and you can see it and feel it, and the other
Yeah.
is you gotta tune in a little bit and then you can see it and feel it.
Lovely. And so, how does someone know that this is right for them to step into, right? So maybe they've got some health issues, health symptoms that have come up. Maybe their mainstream PCP has not been that helpful. How would they know this is going to be right for them?
Someone knows that it's right for them when they're tired of being confused,
Hmm.
when they've tried all the things, they're
Yeah.
tired of trying. That,
Okay.
y- you know, I use this on the daily for myself and my family, but
Uh-huh.
really when my clients come to me, it's they are ready for answers because
Mm.
I would say that this is a more unusual method. Maybe they've tried acupuncture, maybe they've tried meditation,
Mm-hmm.
maybe they've tried pharmaceuticals,
Yes.
supplements, herbal remedies. They've tried things, either haven't gotten the results or they haven't stuck, and they're ready to try something new. I like it when people have tried other things because
Okay.
it gives me information about what works. And if someone is still willing and saying, "No, I know I can figure this out," then that's the
Yes.
right person for me. If you're someone who gets a headache and says, "I don't like this headache, I want it to go away, I'll go to Beth and Beth is going to give me something to make this headache go away," no, we are not the right fit because your body does the healing. I don't
Right.
heal your headache. I don't give
Right.
you something because I don't want you to think that I am giving you something that is even the power of a custom homeopathic remedy. It is still your body that is making sense of that energy and is going to assimilate it and be able to heal. And you need to take responsibility for that. So
Mm-hmm.
my client, my ideal person is someone who's ready for that journey.
Okay. I like that. I like that. Yeah, I think one of the things that we've lost in Western medicine is the idea that our bodies already have a way to heal itself. And I love that it's here in the States, homeopathy is not as big a thing as it used to be. But when I first moved to the Washington, D.C. area, one of my first jobs was working in a homeopathy site. And it was like the coolest job. I loved it and learned what homeopathy was, and it made complete sense to me. But I know a lot of people are like, that's too woo woo. It doesn't make any sense. I'm going to go to a regular doctor. And I'm like, okay. But our
Hmm.
bodies already know what to do.
Yes, it is. It's
Yeah.
true. Between that and Bach flower essences and the
Hmm.
power of essential oils, and like there are even just colors, a
Yeah.
color has a frequency and you
Yes.
will be drawn to a color that is exactly what you need. And then you will notice that at one point in your life, your wardrobe was all purple, and now it is yellow and green, or whatever the case may be. But
Yes.
you are drawn to what is healing, and
Yep.
you paint the walls of your house certain colors
Yes.
because that's what you need. And then you grow up and say, "Why did I do that?" Well, that's what you needed at the time. So there is
Hmm.
frequency everywhere,
Yep.
and you can use it in a very precise way. And if you listen to your body and you ask, you will
Yeah.
know. You will know what to do.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. That's it's funny that you mentioned choosing colors, and it's almost unconscious, and we often say things like, "Oh, that's my favorite color," not realizing there's an attraction that is more unconscious, kind of at the foundational level.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. what are some of the things that people can do to help themselves out here?
There are some really simple things. And before you, as a listener, dismiss any of these things, take them seriously. These are my top 3 things for optimal health.
Okay.
And the first one is, you've heard these, might have heard some of these before, but not quite in this way. So the first one is keep the garbage out. And
I
you
like
might
that.
say, oh, I know what that means. That means don't eat fast food. Well, sure, that's not something you want to put in your body. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
clean up your diet. And so whatever form of eating you subscribe to, eat the highest quality food and just keep the processed foods out. Keep, if it's in
Mm-hmm.
a box or bag or a can or has a barcode, think twice about whether you want to eat that. Sometimes you have no choice. You're traveling and that's all you got. But keep the garbage out. But not just food, your eyes and your ears as well. So
Mm-hmm.
on the screens, on that little screen on your phone,
Yes.
watch it, curate it carefully. Be careful what you look at. We want to be citizens of the world and know what's going on. But when you see those images, your body remembers it. Some of those are traumatic. Be careful what you're watching on television or at the movies or
Mm-hmm.
what you're allowing into your life. Same with listening.
Yes.
The lyrics to songs, popular
Yeah.
culture, it can be a little it can be depressing, it can be violent, it
Mm-hmm.
can be so sad. There's all these heartbreaks and all, just really think about what you're listening to and choose sounds. Go
Yeah.
outside, listen to the birds, and
Yeah.
it's starting to be springtime. Go watch a sunset or see a sunrise. Take in beauty. So that now we're getting into step number 2, which is eat real food and take in. So keep the the violence out. Keep things off your the pictures that you don't need to see, and take in the beauty. Take in the good food. So those are 1 and 2. I kind of jumbled them up. They're together, but I'm sure you can follow
Yeah.
along. The third thing is kind of unique to me. Make sure that you are eliminating. There's a cleansing process that needs to happen in your body every day. So I'm not
Mm-hmm.
talking about just to take a shower. Sure, be clean, have good hygiene, brush your teeth, but also have a bowel movement every day. And if you're not, you might want to figure that one out because you
Yeah.
don't want to recycle your internal waste. There's a lot of metabolites that are in the colon and need to be eliminated. But
Yeah.
also we generate cellular waste every day just by living and breathing. And so it's
Absolutely.
natural to have an elimination process. However, our world is just a little bit more polluted between air and water and food. So it's important to make sure you're on your game. So you might like dry brushing. You might like to brush your skin. You might like sweating in a sauna or some vigorous exercise. There's lymph tapping where you can massage your lymph nodes and help with that. You might want to help your body out just a little bit every day. I don't think you need to do a big detox. That's too much, but just something a little bit to help your body cleanse every day. So those 3
Do
things
what
are
it's
something.
designed to do, right? Every
Yeah,
day. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I love that you mentioned not only eating good food, and we all know we shouldn't eat highly processed foods, but what you take in your eyes and your ears. Because I do talk with my clients about that. Some of my clients seem to be like addicted to watching the news, and I'm like, but why? But why? Is it really worth your mental health? Because you absolutely have to know what's going on in the world all day. Like it doesn't seem to be serving you. So why? You know? And I talk about music in a lot of spaces that I'm in and the benefit it has for me because, yeah, we are all frequency and everything is frequency. And choosing our music wisely is so key. And you can tell in our, even just in our cultural language, when people are in a sad mood about a breakup, they listen to breakup music because that is the frequency they're in, right?
Yes.
I can always tell when I'm super agitated. I revert back to like early 90s hip hop and rap. It's like I can and then I catch myself. I'm like, okay, what's actually going on? So yeah, and I have playlists. I have playlists that are uplifting. I have gratitude playlists. I have happy, like literally happy music. I have a love playlist, and not just sappy love songs, but just love in general on the broader spectrum, right? And so all of those things, like if I'm feeling not quite where I want to be, I know which playlist to put on in order to help shift my frequency. And I do watch what I'm, taking in. I don't watch very much regular television. I canceled cable back in 2015, and that was
Yeah.
it. I never turned back. I stream, but a lot of what I watch is sports or the Gaia channel or YouTube.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing those three. So they're so basic, but so important. So
Yes.
important. So yeah. If folks are interested in reaching out to you, do you do virtual sessions?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. How can people get a hold of you?
The best place is to go to my website, which is yourhealthwithbeth.com, and you can book a call and we can chat. And I also have a quiz. You can
Oh,
take a
lovely.
short 10-question multiple choice quiz, and it will give you my insights on what you should focus on. And then you'll get a few emails of access to a private podcast on helping you figure out how to take action on that priority area. But yeah, you
Nice.
could book a call. There's a lot that's possible, but it first starts with you and knowing that your body wants to heal. It's
Yeah,
not, it doesn't come from the outside, it comes from inside you.
absolutely. Well said. Thank you. And so when we stop fighting our symptoms and start listening to them, we move from forced to intelligence and from suppression to alignment. And so much clarity can come out of that. We can move from guessing and going, what in the world is that? To so much more clarity. So I am so grateful that you are in the world doing the work that you're doing. Thank you for this conversation.
Thank you. I enjoy talking to you so much.
Thank you. And to the audience, if this conversation resonated for you, I'd invite you to really turn inward and take a look, right? Sense and feel what is it about this conversation that resonated? What symptoms might you be trying to ignore, tamp down, or even figure out and haven't gotten resolution for? And if that brings up a little bit of clarity in the work that Beth is doing in the world, I would encourage you to reach out. And if you know someone who this conversation might help, I would encourage you to share it with them and let them know that because you love them, that you think that this might be helpful for them and for them to take a listen. And also, if you're a high performing or high achieving person who senses that your energy is like not where it needs to be, I would encourage you to do the work of regulating, aligning, and finding out the root cause. Because how our health shows up and how our mental health shows up is how we lead. And so getting all of those things into alignment can be most helpful for the work and the impact that you're trying to have in the world. And at the end of this episode, I'd like to also encourage you all to, if you want to continue this kind of conversation, join me in the Expansion Room community on the Circle platform, and the link for that community will be in the show notes, as well as Beth's website. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.